Good morning, all.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mr. Walker?
I am great. I'm great. My favorite people. I've I've seen both of you in some setting. I forgot where now. Some community event. I forgot where. I know I've seen you in person beyond just the monthly meeting, and I forgot if it was at one of these educational events. Anyway, that's all. I can't remember when, but because in my mind, I'm thinking like in those situations, I'm always like, well, is it like Chief so-and-so, or is it Bethany, or is it Lori? How do we greet each other in these kind of more community spaces? Yeah. So that was the extent of that. A little bit of rant.
It's always fine.
Okay. Right. Well, so just in saying that, I saw Melinda, and I can't her last name escapes me, but somehow her first name was in my head.
Yep.
Because she was out with interns at Sorella. They were having a kind of welcome, just probably a little sip and happy hour just to welcome the interns to their office, which I thought was a nice thing. And
That is nice.
And I provided a little pride about her expertise that they're going to learn from, because she really is to me a very confident litigant and that kind of lawyer.
Absolutely.
You don't want to mess with Melinda.
Nope.
All I can say. All right, I'll yield the floor to Pastor AJ, who appears to be here.
Yep, I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Here dealing with all kind of sicknesses in this house. It is ridiculous what's going on, and I'm sure it's something that's happening across the district. I'm keeping both my boys home today because and I'm mad about it because Ashton has perfect attendance and I don't want him to miss school. But it's probably wise to keep him home. But I really want him to have perfect attendance this year, and it's just messing everything up. So can't send him to school throwing up on everything. But good morning to all. Just want to make sure, Christina, are we waiting on anyone else, or you?
I've sent a message to both Ms. Daristo Ledger and Ms. Escorbano, and I'm waiting to hear back. And I know Dr. Shmurda won't be able to, I don't believe.
Okay.
I don't know if you
I
want
mean, well, it's 8:34, and our agenda isn't that long today. We don't have a long agenda, so I would, I think we're gonna go ahead and move forward, just to get the train moving. And as I stated, we don't have a long agenda today, so just let me know when you're ready, Christina.
Okay. Or Dr. Silver, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, this is recorded on YouTube, correct?
Yes.
All right. Okay, cool. So we're live. Let me just introduce and give a proper greeting. Good morning to everyone that is watching our policy committee meeting. This is the best meeting of the Hartford Board of Education. So if you're watching this meeting or happen to be passing by this meeting, this is the best meeting of the Hartford Board of Education. My name is Pastor AJ Johnson, Vice Chair of the Hartford Board of Education and Chair of the Policy Committee. And good morning to all. Our agenda is very short today, but it's impactful. And we will turn this over to Dr. Bethany Silver to just give us an overview of our agenda and move us forward. Good morning to all. Dr. Silver.
Good morning, everyone. And we do great work in this committee, and I'm so excited to be working with our board members to move our work forward. Thank you so much for that, Pastor AJ. And I do believe that before we actually start with our main agenda, there is an overview or a quick update on our equity policy, because we had, let me just share my screen with the agenda, but we had talked about put the final vote for the equity policy on hold while we move forward with acquainting our community with the policy and the work that this policy committee is doing, and also to share the policy and receive feedback from our community. So we do have Ms. Viviana Alvarado joining us this morning. And she has, she works with Chief Blackburk and has quite a handle on the work that's going on around the equity policy and the socialization plan. So Ms. Alvarado, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself and say hello and give a quick overview of the plan for sharing this with our families. And I know that today is a big day for our office because we have moved spaces. So, but you look beautiful, Ms. Alvarado. Are you ready? Oh, and you're muted.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Silver. Yes, so I'm Vivian Alvarado, and I work with the Office of Family and Community Partnerships. I have been through this year. We have done a few since last year, because I remember last year, I think about this date was one of the first times we hosted family engagement to review policies. So we have been doing this work. It's amazing just to sit and listen to what families have to say. They do read the policies, they go through it. So we did create a timeline for you all, so that way you are updated and you can see where we're going with this and about when we plan to engage our different stakeholders. As the majority of you know, we do have a group at the district level that is called FACES, and I'm sorry I'm not sharing my screen. I'm on my phone. That is called FACES, Family and Community Educational Supports. We plan to engage with them as they are a leadership group, right, at the district level. It's composed of different SGC chairs. We also have teachers. We also have FCSSPs. So it's a robust group of people. So we plan to engage with them. We also plan to engage with some community partners as well. We plan to use the July time for that because, as you know, we have summer and the summer experience, right? And we have summer enrichment. So we have that time with them where we can say like, hey, we're hosting this little focus group. Let's all get together and let's take a look at this. As a district that is moving towards or all our schools are community schools, right? So it's a district that is moving in that direction. We do think that it's incredibly important to hear the voices of those community partners, right, that we want in our buildings and that we want supporting our families. So hopefully that can happen during the month of July. I did bring up maybe engaging with the FCSSPs as well. They are our extension, right? They are our arms, at least for our office. There are arms out there with the families. So they're the face of the school. They engage with families, so they have a different sense, right, or a different perspective that we have, for example, at the district level. So they can talk, we can hear them and say, you know, maybe zone 1 is dealing with these equity issues, but zone 4 is not. So we want to make sure to have that all around. We also plan to engage with them in July. They're 11-monther, so they are working during the month of July. So those two stakeholders, right? We have the FCSSPs and we also have the community partners. We plan to engage with them in July. FACES, we do want to give them a little break. They have been working so hard with us through the year. So they are taking the summer off. So once we are back the week prior to the first day of school, we plan to host a meeting with them, share the policy, get their feedback. And then lastly, once families are a little bit settled into the new school year, right? Once we have that first month, we've worked out those kinks, we plan to then host a few focus groups, right? Not just one, a few focus groups with the families between the end of September and the beginning of October. That includes SGCs, PTOs, any leadership group that is within the school building. And of course, we extend it to all families, because not everybody has time to be in an SGC or a PTO, but everybody's voice counts and everybody's input is vital. So that's my part.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ms. Alvarado, for that update. And I know you've worked very hard to schedule these meetings and make sure that we're bringing in a lot of community voices into our process. So thank you so much for the work that you do to engage our families and to help us connect with them and receive their feedback. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Dr. Silver.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Viviana, for that. And I really look forward to just hearing the feedback and hearing, what our parents have to say and our community members have to say. Thank you.
If I can weigh in with a comment, this is Board Member Walker. So, Viviana, like to thank you publicly for the work you do with community engagement. Your name was lifted up at the SGC showcase. I realized you weren't there in person, so let me give you a little praise here. Faces did come up in that setting and was recognized. For me personally, I'd like for you to share the faces of information to me or with other board members. I know it was presented to us somehow over the year because I remember seeing it, but when it came up again, it was like, I'm less familiar with it because I hadn't paid a lot of attention to what it's been doing since it first got rolled out. So if you can just provide that to give like a little background. The other thing is, if the timeline you talked about, if it's published somewhere, let me know. I would like to be able to direct people to where they can go to get the timeline you provided, so people can know how to reach out and how to get involved if they want to. I'm trying to somehow assist in or preempt the comment that people weren't notified or didn't somehow get adequate awareness of what's happening. So if we or I can know that too, it'll be something we can kind of present and hand out if people ask us. Thank you.
Reverend AJ, if you are speaking, you are on mute, just FYI.
No, I'm
Oh.
not speaking. I thought that Dr. Silver was going to continue with the agenda. My apologies.
Okay.
Back into your hands. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And Ms. Alvarado, thank you. I saw you taking notes and I made notes as well. So we can definitely address Mr. Walker's question and make sure that the opportunities for engagement are well publicized and available on our website. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Walker. Moving on to our agenda then, we have a second reading for health services, which is policy 5141. We have a first reading for reporting to parents and bylaw 9312, as well as recodification for report cards and grading systems, and a discussion around bylaw 9321 in response to questions that were raised by board members about public comments at committee meetings. And so with that, I'm going to go to our health services policy. So I'm just going to stop sharing this and share the policy that we have. We are. Okay, can everyone see the policy? Okay, and this is the second reading and oh, Pastor AJ, do you have a question?
No. I was just going to let you know we can see it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you. So as our policy committee knows, we did a very thorough job reviewing this policy and working with Dr. McGilpan and Ms. Comides around the revisions to this policy. So you can see here, this is a second reading, and I did check with Christina last week to make sure to see if we had received any additional comments from board members after our first reading at our last Board of Education meeting. And she confirmed that she did not receive any additional revisions to this policy. So as I scroll through, you can see the work that's been done on this policy to update it and make sure that it does comply with the statutes and legislation around health services and a director role, the role of our health director. So quite a number of changes were added and some really good questions were asked last week. And we did make those adjustments. So this is yes, for example, one of the changes was that the Hartford Public Schools follows immunization and vaccination requirements of the Connecticut Department of Public Health. And because we have that statement, we actually didn't need to list all of these individual items. And as there are updates and revisions to the legislation, to the statute, because we are following the guidelines for the Connecticut Department of Health, we don't need to keep coming back and updating this policy because it falls under that umbrella of the direction we take from the Department of Public Health. And so many, many updates. But there have been no revisions that we received since our last really thorough discussion about this policy. And so it is ready to go for a second reading to our full Board of Education.
All right. Are there any questions, any comments, concerns on this policy? I mean, it's only just me and Board Member Walker, but is there anything just so alarming to where it shouldn't go back?
So let me raise a basic question or comment. Chief, Dr. Silver, the policy states that medical records for each student will be created and then maintained in the nurse's office. I know I'm old school enough for that. That seems to imply that there's a paper file, and I'm thinking nowadays almost everyone's stuff is electronic. So, you know, is it actually going to be in the nurse's office, or is it really going to be electronic?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Walker, and I appreciate your nod to the times that we live in. So our nurses do maintain private health records, and the statement is about keeping the private health information separate from what's in our student information system. So we do have health record electronic tools for health records. We also still maintain some paper records, and certainly as students come in, especially new arrivals from other places in the world, they may have different documentation and materials. And so, there are instances where we will have a paper record of something, but we also maintain electronic records for our health records for students.
Yeah. Okay, so that is indeed true. The reason for my questioning is it's the way that the policy is written. It almost opens up the question of, if audited, would we be able to show that nurses have a file on hand for each student or whatnot? And it sounds like you're saying that will be the case, because you're saying that certain information for students, information won't go into the electronic file, if I'm understanding what you're saying. So some information for students will be maintained in a paper form and not electronically. Is that how I'm understanding your comment?
That we can receive paper forms, but the paper forms can be scanned and added to the student's health record, which is distinct and separate. It's a separate system so that those health records aren't available to just anyone working in the school district who is looking up information for a student.
Understand. Okay. That was my question about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Okay, well, I think that this is something that can move forward unless Lori has any comments from her, from her legal perspective on this.
It looks good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Silver, for your hard work. Let's move this forward.
All right, thank you, Pastor AJ, and we'll bring it for a second reading to our board. And again, appreciation for the work that's been done by Deb Comides and Dr. McGillipan and their expertise in reviewing and refining that policy. Our first reading
And
today.
Dr. Silver, just really quickly, can you make sure to, or Christina, for our meeting, can we make sure that we add them to my notes to give them a shout out, at least over the dais, for our second reading for their hard work, just so Dr. Silver doesn't get all of the love every month. Spread a little love out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We will add okay, we will add them to the note. Thank you so much, sir. Our next policy is reporting to parents. And that policy is, I believe I have it open in one of our, yes, okay. So this policy, reporting to parents, is a consolidation of policy 5122 and policy 5123. Those two policies are consolidated into the reporting to parents policy, which will have the number 5124-6142. And it did have the old number 5151. So just to bring you up to speed with those changes. And this was a recommendation from CABE. So what we have is policy 5122 and 5123. And let's see, this is, 5122 is reporting to parents. And the focus here is for this policy, just see if I can make this a little bit larger so it's easier for everyone to read. Okay. Excuse me. This policy calls for reports being made to parents or guardians periodically by teachers. Through conferences and written reports, the teacher will discuss his or her evaluation of each student's progress, and final assessment and grading of student performance will be the sole responsibility of the teacher. And the administration will create a system to assign grades to students to determine their class rank. And this policy was last revised in November of 2005. So it was adopted in 1999 and last revised in 2005. And that is policy 5122. Policy 5123. Oh, there's a little bit larger text. Just to orient you to this. This is parent-teacher communication. And the language here is that the board recognizes that a child's education is a responsibility shared by the school and the family during the entire period the child spends in school. And to support the goal of the school district to educate all students effectively, schools and parents must work as knowledgeable partners. The board believes that parents are most knowledgeable when they have regular communication with teachers, and schools will take the lead in developing and sustaining effective partnerships. Therefore, it is the policy of the Board of Education to encourage parent-teacher communication. The superintendent and his or her designee shall be responsible for developing procedures in furtherance of this policy around parent-teacher communication. And so these are two policies that have been consolidated into a single policy, which is the reporting to parents policy. So there's quite a bit of work that has gone into this policy. So let's just review this. I'm not sure why it's only showing the edits, but not the red lines. Okay. Well, in this instance, 5124-6142, as you may recall from the agenda, is an update to the old number of 5151. So that is a redlined change. And then these highlighted pieces are also revisions to the policy that include the spirit of 5122 and 5123. And here's where the additions are made. You can see along the margins where policy 5123 is referenced, as well as policy 5122, so that we have a coherent and comprehensive policy for your review and approval. Excuse me. This was also, we brought in language from the CABE model policy. And one of the concerns that we had was a sensitivity to the word penultimate, because it means next to last, but it's not everyone in our community may know what penultimate means. And so we did elect to identify this as, instead of using penultimate, to use just the regular terminology, the second to last, in this policy. And here's where the pieces are referenced, where these components were added to the document. And so I will just start from the beginning. And so you can see the comprehensive integration of 5122 and 5123 into our new policy 5124-6142. So the Board of Education encourages regular and effective two-way communication between parents and teachers through frequent and varied reporting methods, such as phone calls, written notes, and progress reports. The board recognizes that a child's education is a responsibility shared by the school and the family. To support the goal of the school district to educate all students effectively, schools and parents must work as knowledgeable partners. The board believes that parents are most knowledgeable when they have regular communication with teachers. Parent-teacher conferences, letters and informal notes, telephone calls to parents, and school visitation should be used regularly, among other means, to inform parents of student successes and student needs, and to inform teachers of parent concerns about, suggestions for, and perceptions of their children, which may help the teacher in his or her work with particular children. Report card. Written reports on student progress will be issued in accordance with a schedule approved by the superintendent of schools after consultation with principals and faculties. Reporting dates shall be determined annually and placed on the school calendar, which our board did approve earlier this year for next year. Parents will be advised no later than the second to last reporting period of a student's potential failure in a course or grade and the possibility of the student repeating the grade or course. Report cards should reflect the educational growth of the student in relation to each student's ability, attitudes, interests, conduct or citizenship, and achievement, and in relationship to standards for his or her age and grade. The administration will create a system to assign grades to students and to determine their class rank. Teachers also will report on student progress at regularly scheduled parent conferences. Warning notices. Student progress reports to parents and guardians should be sent as needed between marking periods to recognize special achievements, as well as to indicate student failure or deficiencies needing attention. Parental acknowledgement of these communications should be encouraged. If parents are separated or divorced, both have equal rights to be informed of their child's school progress unless there is an order from the court to the contrary. Non-custodial parents shall receive written reports and conference notifications upon a request to the school principal. So this is a comprehensive revision to this policy, and that's the overview of the work that's been done so far.
Outstanding, Dr. Silver. And this policy is, actually probably one of the most practical policies that will probably, I mean, all of them are practical, but this will probably be most visited because it just contains information on communicating to parents. And I, as a parent who have a student in Hartford Public School, appreciate this policy. And I just want to make sure that we get this right, that it's fair and balanced as we, as we just push this forward. So, Mr. Walker, just want to hear your thoughts. Is this something that you would put your name behind? And it's funny, as I'm talking, I'm getting a text message from Hartford Public Schools right now. So
Yeah, that's a good sign. So since this is a first reading, let's I have two areas of comment. One is on the front end about the two-way communication and the methods. There's nothing here about effectiveness of communication or maybe parents having some voice in articulating the ways they prefer to be communicated in. So there may be some bandwidth in that area. I'm saying that only because we have the tool was just approved. My goodness.
just
Dr.
past
Silva,
board meeting. Yeah.
yeah, is the it's a tool that Mrs. Sugarman is helping roll out. It's anyway, it's an online that parent communication tool that the district put out. So the only comment, whenever a tool rolls out, people often have some feedback about this one's effective, this one's not effective, and whatnot. And the other comment is around creating grades and class rank. Totally understand it as it relates to young people graduating from high school or getting to the latter part of high school. It feels like in recent times we've heard of schools, even our own district, moving away from the A, B, C, D, F grading. So, are we saying here that the district is going to somehow create something because we're not going to be using A, B, C, D, F as frequently as we maybe did in the past?
If I may, Pastor AJ, I'll respond to the second question first, which is about class rank. And that system is actually included in our graduation policy and regulations. So we do have a system in place that assigns, that describes our grading practices and our, we have a system in place that describes our grading practices and our class rank, how we calculate that class rank. And we also have a policy on our agenda today, which is a recodification of the grading systems policy. So it's a renumbering of that policy to align with the CABE manual. And we'll actually look at that policy today, but the bulk of that, the detailed technical information is in our graduation policy.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm glad that's going to be clarified. I think what we have here is enough. I agree. I'm not as much talking about detail, but you've said there is a method to that was my question really, because it sounds like as schools are moving away from A, B, C, D, F, then some of the mechanisms that we used to have don't seem to exist, but you said there is a policy correction for that. And Parent Square, thank you. Thank you for providing me that. When they brought up Parent Square, they talked about these numbers of access to parents and whatnot. So as part of this communication, I know it's not listed here, but is there going to be any interest in saying that we're going to be responsive to effectiveness or desire from parents, or that's really all I'm getting at. So if a parent says, for instance, gee, communicate to me via this, right? Will there be a mechanism to let parents kind of have that ability? That's all.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that sensitivity. I know that our communications team has worked hard to bring in the right tools for reaching out to our parents. I don't have the exact number, and I don't want to say the wrong number, for the percent of families that rely on Parent Square and have elected to use Parent Square. Within the software of Parent Square, the family can choose whether they prefer to receive emails or text messages or phone calls.
Okay.
So that those are three methods of communication. Of course, you know, when a teacher has wonderful news about a student or wants to share something or ask a question of a parent, sometimes a note home or a phone call is the way the teacher will reach out to that family member, the family of the student. But to your point, Mr. Walker, I will check with our communications team to get more information about the effectiveness of the Parent Square app in terms of parent satisfaction. And we do have a question about that in our culture and climate survey, asking families if the Parent Square tool is of value to them. So we do collect that information, and I believe it's in the high 90s, the percent of families that indicate that Parent Square is valuable to them. So, and to put a plug in for our climate survey, it does close on June 9th, which is the end of this week. And so we have continued to send out invitations to families, staff, and continue to collect data from students, but really look forward to getting everyone's responses to that climate survey.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Let me just ask this so we can just get this and move ahead. I think everything you're saying, I agree with. I do think we're surveying, I do think is in the 90s from what I recall too. I think maybe my question is, in this particular policy, should there be a line that says the effectiveness of our communication will be evaluated? Or is this not the right policy where we put that one line in?
I think that there's room for that. Absolutely. And I think it's a great idea. So, Mr. Walker, thank you, because we are a district so focused on continuous improvement and
thank you, because I was trying to say that, but maybe it didn't come across exactly. So yes, that was essentially what I was getting at. So, all right. I will
thank you.
And with that.
Thank you. Appreciate that feedback. That's very good feedback. Dr. Silver, were we able to capture it? Dr. Silver?
Well, yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm adding it to, I'm adding
Gotcha.
a statement
Okay.
to the, I was typing a statement to the, adding that to the policy. The district will monitor the effectiveness of communication methods and let's see, with families and survey families for their satisfaction.
Yeah, thank you. Because I know we do it somewhere, because we talk about it. So.
Okay, so I did add the statement, the district will monitor the effectiveness of communication methods with families and survey families for their satisfaction with current communication practices.
Yep. Very good. Outstanding. Well, just really quickly, I just want to recognize our chairman, Philip Berger, who's on the line. Just want to recognize him very quickly. All right, Dr. Silver, anything else? I think Tyrone, that board member Walker, that was some great feedback regarding this policy. And again, this policy is very, very critical. And so I'm excited to push this out for a first reading as we communicate. So is there anything else in this, Dr. Silver?
No, sir. I think we're ready to go on to the next policy.
Outstanding. Let's move forward.
Super. Thank you very much. And we'll go back to our policy agenda. And that was reporting to parents. And our next policy is bylaw 9312, which is the formulation, adoption, and amendment of bylaws. And what we realized we needed to do was add language to our policy manual about deleting old policies, because we do not have any language in place in our manual about how to remove policies that are no longer necessary. And so bylaw 9312 is, I think that I have this open on my computer actually, and it might give us a better, yes. Okay, so I'm going to just close this here and go to the new the document. Okay, policy 9312. So it is showing the changes that we made, but this is policy 9312, formulation, adoption, amendment of bylaws and policies. And the changes are in purple. I'm so sorry about that. They're not appearing in red is I'm not sure why that is, but so we have added the words and policies to the title of the policy and added policies here as well, proposed new bylaws and policies, and suggested amendments to, revision of, or deletion of existing bylaws or policies may be adopted by a majority vote of all members of the Board of Education. And that's what we typically do when we bring a first reading and a second reading to our board. So that would be when that happens. This will usually occur during the second of 2 regularly scheduled meetings of the Board of Education, not less than 4 weeks apart, in the calls for which meeting the proposed additions, amendments, or revisions shall have been described in writing. Amendments shall be submitted in writing at any meeting and shall be adopted only by an affirmative vote at any succeeding meeting, but no later than the 3rd succeeding regular meeting. So those are the changes and revisions, if there are any questions.
Are there any questions? I mean, how different is this from what we already currently do?
Thank you, Pastor AJ. So we don't currently have anything in our policy manual that would allow us to delete old policies that are obsolete.
Understood.
So that's the opportunity that these changes present to us.
Right. There's no.
Hold on, Mr. Walker. Mr. Rigger
Right.
had his hand up.
Okay.
Chairman Rigger, you have the floor.
Thank you. Dr. Silver, I just want to make sure so the intent here is when a new policy comes about that we have a mechanism or language in place that allows us to either update or delete the old policy that might be impacted. I guess my question for you is, what is the scenario in the case where there's not a new policy and there's a need to delete the old policy? Does that address this?
It does, sir. The policy, the language here, it does say or deletion. So it doesn't require specific revision. It does create the opportunity to just remove a policy that's outdated and may no longer be appropriate for the manual.
Thank you.
Board Member Walker?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was gonna say, Chairman Rigger asked a great question, and so I don't have any other comments, and so this can move forward whenever we get to the second reading.
Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you both for your feedback. Lori, I'm sure Attorney Mazurek, I'm sure that you, and again, I know you like kind of just chilling in the background kind of thing, but I'm always going to bring you forward on, as it pertains legally, just from your purview, are we in bounds, out of bounds? Where are we at with this?
Nope, I think this makes very clear now that if you're ever faced with a situation where you have to delete a bylaw or policy, you can clearly do that. Just in the way you'd be voting on revisions to a policy or a new policy. So I think it clarifies it and, puts the practice down on paper now. And so I think it's appropriate.
I appreciate this, and I'm always up at the Connecticut General Assembly, and I always wonder how they do this because every year they're passing stuff, and I'm always, they got clerks and they got corp counsel, they got all kind of stuff up there, but I'm always just in the back of my head wondering, I wonder if we have double policies on something that we just don't have, like as we're trying to do this, on a board level in Hartford.
Mhm.
How does the state run their laws and their policies as they pass them so quickly? And I'm just interested in stuff like that. But I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Dr. Silver. Thank you so much, Attorney Mazurek. I think this is something that we can move forward to a what is this, a first or second reading?
It's a first reading, sir.
First reading. Yeah, let's move it forward to a first reading.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll move it forward to a first reading and move on to the next item on our agenda. And the next item on our agenda is recodification. I just want to give an example of another instance where that bylaw would affect the policies we have on the books. So we very thoroughly went through the reporting to parents policy, which is updated from policy 5150 to 5124, 6142, and it consolidates the 5122 and 5123. So we will be able to remove those old policies from our manual once we adopt through a first and second reading, the reporting to parents policy 5124, 6142. So that's an example of an application of the bylaw revision once that has a second reading as well. So going to our recodification, we have a report cards policy, and don't believe that I have it open here. Let me see if I have it open. No, that is not opening. Okay. I know that I had this policy open a moment ago. So please bear with me while I locate this policy, since I'm getting an error message here from the link.
Yes, no problem. No problem. And as you're trying to open it, we want to welcome board member Francois Tresto-Ledger on the call, and also recognize and celebrate our chairman, Philip Rigger, for graduating MIT last week. That is not an easy feat. And as a Black man, I'm proud. I'm proud. When I say I'm proud to know this brother, because MIT is one of the most prestigious schools in the country, and to know someone that has gone and graduated that I can call a friend, that is amazing. So congratulations to you, Mr. Rigger, in your achievement. And I know there's more out there for you, brother. So congratulations.
Thank you, Pastor Johnson. Greatly appreciate it.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, since he opened that up, I too, Chairman would say congratulations, and also to congratulate you for the updated photo. It looks very, very dashing, and so that as well.
Appreciate it, Tyrell.
yeah, the most interesting man in the world. Yeah.
It does. Yeah, does have that effect.
Congratulations and good morning.
Good morning. All right, Dr. Silver, are we where we need to be?
Yes, sir. Although
All right, outstanding.
pausing for celebration is especially such a momentous celebration. So congratulations to Chairman Rigger. That is wonderful. So just to come back to this, the policy recodification, we are adding a 0.12 to the this policy 6146.12, moving it from 6142. So that is the change here. And again, I noted it is a simple recodification, and anticipating that this will move forward smoothly. There's no change in the language, but it is about report cards, which is another traditional way of communicating with families.
I appreciate this as, you know, as one who would hide their report card. As one that would try to hide their report card on certain occasions. I just want to make sure parents shall be kept aware of their children's progress throughout the year by any means of grades, attendance. I just want to make sure the communication is there. And the marking period. Is there anything, and I should have asked this during our debrief, but I'm glad I'm on it now. Is there anything in our policy regarding communication? Obviously, we're not sending report cards home anymore. I think they're more digital now. They come through email or maybe even Parent Square. I might have even seen something on Parent Square. I'm not sure. But is it appropriate or to add some kind of how we're communicating these report cards to parents, or is this policy just about what's in the report card and not about the communication of the report card?
That is a good question. I believe that it does clarify the contents of the report card. Just a little bit smaller here so it can fit on the page. So
and certainly if we don't have all the answers at this particular moment, that is a question as we go through this policy, just to add or mention how we're communicating report cards to parents in the appropriate time. Because in our previous policy that we just went through, we talked about communicating in different forms and fashions along the way. And I feel that this policy should at least mention how we communicate a student's achievement to parents.
right. What I could do is certainly look into that and provide you with our committee with some additional information about how report cards are communicated to families.
Okay, outstanding. Are there any other questions? Let me go back to my. Oh yeah, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually going to lift up your comment, but say that I'd be happy if it's in that communication policy that we just created, maybe spiking out a line item around progress reports, report cards, because you've already indicated, Dr. Silva, that in parents, where parents can indicate how they want to be communicated with. So maybe, to Pastor AJ's point, I mean, we add in this particular area, progress reports is an additional area parents can express how they want to be communicated with. It can go here, but I'd be okay if it's in the communication, as long as it's spelled out that it relates to progress reports and report cards. And in that vein, I think I'm aware that some parents still get a mailed report card because some parents don't necessarily have, I guess, internet or whatnot, and I know some communications still go out through the mail from the district. As far as I think I'm correct in that, Dr. Silva. Okay.
I believe you are, sir, but I just want to confirm with our.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that. So I think Pastor AJ's point has some currency, because I do think people still use the old school approach, and maybe that we do need to do old school plus new school to make sure that parents actually get the information. Far be it from a child to intercept the mail.
No, even more importantly, I was watching the news, and there were graduations in this town, not in Connecticut, where parents were told the week of that their students weren't graduating because they didn't meet course requirements. Right? I don't know if I saw it on Facebook or something like that, but they were told the week of that their students did not meet the requirements, and so the district had to hustle a plan together to get the students what they needed to graduate, and it was almost an entire class. And so I want to make sure that we're properly communicating, again, academic progress to parents so they know what to work on with their students at home and beyond.
There were 28 out of 33 of those high school students who did not meet graduation requirements. 28.
Wow. Well, if I can chime in, I think we indicated in the previous evaluation of the policy reading that's why that second to last is in there. So at least one marking period before the final marking period, a parent's going to hear your child's not going to make it. So I think we have it covered. It looks like we have at least that part of it covered.
Yes, I pulled up the policy that we were working on earlier, reporting to parents, just to provide some text around the discussion and the process that the district will follow.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think that was a good question, because I would hate for us to have that situation in Hartford.
Yeah, nah, not on our watch. This ain't that board. We're not doing that.
Okay. Then to go back to the report cards policy that we had been working on. The reporting to parents policy does cover a great deal of information. I will look into getting the more information about the preferences around a mailed report card that's in paper format versus electronic format. But I do know that PowerSchool has a parent portal where families can monitor student progress. Also could create an account and log in and see student progress, as well as attendance, daily attendance at the school, classroom attendance and participation, all the grades that are entered about the student, homework, quizzes, tests, and marking period exams as well. So that all of that information is available in the parent portal, and that is an electronic format. So to your point, Mr. Walker, about some families maybe not being heavy technology users, I will get more information to answer Pastor Johnson's question about the distribution of report cards and if we send them out in paper format. So thank you so much for that.
Yep, outstanding. Yeah, so I think we're ready to move forward, Dr. Silva.
Excellent. We will bring this recodification to our next full Board of Education meeting as a first reading for that.
Outstanding.
Thank you. Our next policy is grading systems. Grading systems, yes. Grading systems policy recodification, and I'm going to bring up that policy for your review so you can see the redlining there. I think it's here. Yes, there we go. Okay, so the change in the policy is that it's we're adding a 0.1 to this. And the reasoning is that there was overlap between the number with the graduation requirements policy 6146, and this had been policy 6146, but as we adopted the changes recommended by CABE, we do need to make sure that this policy stands out on its own merit and doesn't share a number with another policy. So that is the change here is 6146. And there's also, again, something related to recodification, a reference in the administrative regulations that refer to no longer policy 6140, but 6146 graduation requirements. So just letting you know that's all the changes here in this recodification of this policy.
Okay. Thank you. Just a quick question. This may be a silly question, but you know, it says forms of communication promote process evaluation, student performance regarding achievement. Achievement is defined as performance measured against Common Core state standards. Can anyone just enlighten us on what is Common Core state standards? To the best of everyone's ability on this line. You're on mute, Dr. Silva.
Thank you so much for that question, Reverend Day. Common Core state standards were adopted in 2010 by the Connecticut State Department of Education, and they are the educational standards that underlie our grade level expectations, as well as in English language arts and mathematics. And they also inform the creation of the Smarter Balanced assessment items. And all of those items on those assessments align with the Common Core standards and the Connecticut State Department of Education Common Core state standards as well. So they are the grade level expectations that we have for students as they proceed in their education from kindergarten through grade 12.
Thank you for that. Mr. Walker, you wanted to make a comment regarding Common Core?
No, I think it's been covered.
Okay, cool. All right, I just wanted that to be clear on, so we all understand, but also for public consumption, for those who may be watching this policy committee, because I know y'all out there watching. But you know, just want to be clear on what Common Core state standards is and how we get our children across the finish line, and what they're measured up against. So thank you for that. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this codification? All right, not hearing none, Dr. Silver, I think let's push on.
Okay, thank you. We will bring this policy to our next board meeting for a first reading on the recodification of the grading systems. Our next item is our discussion for bylaw 9321. And there were some questions raised by board members about the opportunity for public comment in committee meetings. And so this is a proposed, Pastor AJ, if you would like to bring this for a first reading to our Board of Education, this is how we have prepared this document. But this is the change. The request was made by a board member to include public comment or the possibility of public comment in our committee meetings, the opportunity for public comment. And so Attorney Miserak did investigate the request and did reference the Roberts Rules of Order around this question. It was a very good question. And the Board of Ed follows Robert's Rules of Order, and consistent with that, in Chapter 4, Meetings and Sessions in the 10th edition, pages 93 and 94, and as related to public session, public comment may be done under the control of the presiding officer. This is the direction that we have from Robert's Rules of Order. And I believe everyone has a text. This text here as a reference. So this is Chapter 4, Meeting and Sessions in the 10th edition, pages 93, 94, that we do pull this language from this. So this does happen in some committee meetings already. And for example, Pastor AJ, you did invite a member of the public, Ms. Arceniegas from Parent University, to provide comments on pending state legislation that was related to one of the policies that the committee was discussing. And the Freedom of Information Act does not explicitly require nor prohibit public comment. So as such, the commission that oversees Robert's Rules of Order has taken the position that such a practice is within the discretion of the agency that's engaging the practice. So of our policy committee, it does fall under the discretion of the policy committee, or it does fall under the discretion of the Board of Education. The policy committee is one part of that organization. So adding a statement at the discretion of the committee chairperson, a committee may provide an opportunity for public participation, is a statement we could add that would align with Robert's Rules of Order and would invite the chair of the committee to open the floor for public comment at a committee meeting.
Yes. So my answer to this is immediately yes. If it's not added, let's add that. Because again, how do committees get feedback outside of board meetings, right? So I would like to add that, but I want to hear from our board. Mr. Walker. You're on mute.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I fat fingered the microphone. Pardon me. So I too would support this addition as one who's was elevating, adding more voice to the committee process. This certainly moves in that direction. I'll add that I told the chairman I would do some homework to figure out methods of which to add, public or community members' comments or participation in the committee process. So I'm saying I will also own that I'm doing that homework because it may impact some other policies or bylaws. But this one I would certainly support as is written.
Board Member Ledger.
Thank you. Good morning. I just wanted to use this as a plug. This is a perfect time where for folks in the community, parents, families who are interested in having a voice, the School Governance Council is a great area. Also, PTAs of the schools join and become involved, and that is a great grassroots way, great way to get involved and stay involved and see what's happening and promote change within the schools. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. All right, now up, Chairman Riger.
Yeah, and I appreciate the discussion here. I just want to clarify, this is something that we're already doing, but we're just putting language in our bylaws that spells out the committee chairperson, at the discretion of the committee chairperson, can have public comment participation. Correct? Thank you.
Correct. Okay. All right. It sounds like we have consensus, Dr. Silver. Let's move this forward. I think this Chairman Ricker is right. This is something we somewhat do already, but we're just putting a little mustard on the hot dog. That's all.
Okay, thank you so much, Pastor AJ, and for all the contributions of our board members and committee members in that discussion. And that concludes the items. That's all the items that we have on our agenda for this morning for our policy committee. And we'll move forward with a first reading of this bylaw at our next Board of Education meeting as well.
Outstanding. Well, listen, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Silver, for leading us swiftly through this discussion. As I communicated to Dr. Silver, one of our workshops moving forward, hopefully, will be around policy and just planning out our next, agenda for policy. So I want other board members' input on some of the things that they want to see as we begin to sketch out our plan for next year. I'm trying to be as orderly and as ahead of things as possible. So at least with this committee, we just don't want to run up on policy as we see it. We want to kind of plan it out for the year and strategically place it just to prepare us. So if there's anything that you want to see for next year as it pertains to the policies of the Hartford Board of Education, please, put it forward so we can schedule it in an agenda so we're not being reactive next year or in the summertime, but we actually have a plan of what we're doing. And, I want to shout out Dr. Silver and former board member Aisha Clark, because they gave me a running start with this committee just by preparing some of the stuff that needed to happen. So I want to kind of keep that same energy, that we, that if I walk away today, someone's able to step up and have a clear understanding of what the plan is of what we want to do with policy. So I just want to throw that out there. We're looking to plan the next year early. So if there's anything you want to see, let us know. And just thank you for being a part of this committee this morning. And again, thank you, Dr. Silver. Will you please let the young lady who's Valencia, I can't remember her name.
Viviana Alvarado.
Viviana Alvarado. I'm horrible with names. So please know that about me. Horrible with names. Please let her know. Thank you for coming on and just sharing her piece. If there's nothing else, Chairman Ricker, is there anything that you would like to say?
The only thing I would add in the spirit of what you just shared, in terms of next year and bylaws, and I think I've said this before, is really making sure that we stand up a legislative advocacy committee. I know there's been discussions that there is a task force, but again, I think when I take a look at some of the challenges and opportunities ahead of us as a district, I think having a actual committee doing that work is going to be super helpful.
Very clear. Very clear. Christina, is there anything that we should know, or kind of any announcements that we should know? Christina Santiago?
No. I know we are at leadership, actually. You know what? I'm going to bring it up. Juneteenth. We have, I'm going to go ahead and do it because we do have 15 minutes left. We now have, if you're talking about that, anything we need to know at all, or as far as setting policy for next year?
Yeah, I mean, just say what you're saying. Go ahead, say what you're saying.
We now have 2 schools that their last day is on Juneteenth because they had a water main break, etc. I've talked to Lori about, or excuse me, Attorney Mizrak, about what we can do for this year, and I've talked to Chairman Rigueur about bringing it up at leadership. But since we have Lori here, we have board members who are in leadership anyway. I figured now's a good time. We've played around with ideas on student holiday, or actually, okay, Chairman Rigueur, go ahead.
Yeah, I know there's been a couple of options and observe. What I would say, I think in this case where we have to choose the lesser of 2 evils. Juneteenth is it is a federal holiday. I believe it's a state holiday, and I think, from my view, it's more. We should treat it like any other holiday, I guess is what I'm saying. And I know that puts a burden on students because they want to get out ahead of time, but I suspect that there would be a lot of noise if we don't observe it as a holiday.
So from my perspective, I think there is no doubt it will be. I feel the board is very clear that we will make it a holiday, whether it's student or district. I think what we're wondering now is the timing for this year. If we should, I know we want to honor that, make it a holiday. We thought maybe effective next year for students and district, but I do want to make it clear that the board has been very crystal clear and that they want this to be a holiday for the Hartford Public Schools. It's just, do we honor the, because I was thinking about students, parents, teachers who have vacation plans for those 2 schools, to honor that as well.
And what are the 2 schools?
Great Path and, hold on.
SMSA?
No, was it University High?
University High and
University High. And West Middle, I'm sorry, West Middle School and University High School.
If I can weigh in, and I'm not sure if this is absolutely responsive, but in the state of Connecticut, when it was enacted last year, they made that first year voluntary in terms of complying with the holiday, and then it made this year, which is in essence the second year, where it would be compulsory.
Okay.
Right, to give everyone in essence a full cycle year to incorporate it into what they did. Now, last year there were a number of people who still observed Juneteenth because it had been enacted as a state law, but it hadn't fully been implemented. So I'm saying in the same way, maybe in this first year of the school implementing that, maybe there could be some flexibility in this initial year to give people a full school year to really incorporate it into their planning. That would just be my feedback on that rollout question.
Thank you for that. And those are along the lines that I was thinking that we could, I'm wondering, and I talked to Lori about making it a holiday, but effective next year, maybe. So something along those lines of what you're saying, Mr. Walker. Because I do.
Right. What I'm saying is, yet giving folks the option this year, because there may be some schools who really want to, embrace it this year, give them that option. But some schools may want to embrace it this year, even though, as you said, it will be enforced next year for sure.
I think though, because if it is a student holiday and the staff has to return the next day, that might impact school, like transportation, et cetera, that they needs to be worked out.
Oh,
Do we have that analysis?
We, as far as the cost, I know it will be minimal. It just needs to, I talked briefly to Mr. Mason, our transportation manager. The cost itself is minimal. It's just arranging and making sure that the staff and students. So is one thing, okay, there's operational side, and then there's also honoring. I don't know about staff and parents who already have vacation plans, knowing that right now their last day is on 19th. If we push it to the 20th, what does that look like? That I don't know. I don't have that yet from those two schools.
Can we take the mystery out of it and do a survey of the parents of those schools? And just ask the question?
Yeah, I can get the principals to do that.
oh, well, hang on, Christina, if I'm maybe jumping in. I thought the Hartford Public Schools, our number of educational days already exceeds the state minimum. So I guess I'd ask if perchance we kept the 19th and didn't do, in essence, if we missed one day, wouldn't we still meet the state standard for education days for the school year?
That's a good point.
That is a good question. I want to say I agree with you, but I would need to make sure. I don't want to. I don't know if Dr. Silver, you know for sure, but I do believe you're right.
Well, I would check on that too, to at least give us that flexibility to say, I'm just practically saying at that point in the school year, I'm just not convinced that there's a great learning loss in that one last day of school.
So, yeah, so Christina, so when you brought this, man, I'm under the assumption that they need that extra day. Right, like for me, like I don't know why I'm having a conversation if the day is not needed.
Yeah.
To Tyrone's point.
Yep. If it meets the state requirement, I don't think it's in our policy or our calendar.
I know the way that we had our current year planned, we had like a couple extra days beyond the state minimum.
I am sharing my screen, and this is the calendar for 22-23. And at the very bottom, it says there are 180 instructional days for students.
And
Is that the state requirement? Is that above or like?
That is at the state requirement, 180 days.
Yeah, the way it reads, the extra days are for instructional learning for staff, correct, Dr. Silver, is how it.
Yes, it includes up to 187 days for certified staff and 8 extended learning days for intercession, but those don't count toward the minimum of 180 days. The intercession days. So this calendar was designed to provide 180 days. Last year, to your point, Mr. Walker, the calendar did, I believe, provide 181 or 182 days, but the current school year calendar for 22-23 includes 180 days.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
So to be clear, that means that we would need that extra day, correct, for those two schools to reach the 180 minimum. Okay. So that being said, I can ask the parents, the principals to survey the parents and the staff on any vacation or the impact.
So let me ask a question: if how does a student holiday play into this if it's required by the state?
Well,
if there's a state requirement,
we would just incorporate it into the calendar for next year. So they would know ahead of time that June 19th is a student holiday, possibly a district holiday, depending on the union.
Yeah, no, I get that for next year, but I'm talking about in terms of this year for the students at those two schools. They're required one more day in school to meet the requirements. So I guess my question is, they have to come back to school, and we're saying either it's going to be the 19th or the 20th. Is that, I mean, like, let's just get it to like basic
Like,
Yes.
is that what's at the table?
They would have to come back on the 20th, correct?
Okay.
If we made it a student holiday. And the board would have to vote. So I guess the reason also I'm bringing it up is because we have one board meeting left before June 19th. So again, I know it's the timing of it all. I want to, I guess, balance the board's and the community's desire to make it a holiday. And, you know, it is a holiday, but also a Hartford Public Schools holiday versus the impact it would have on students, staff, parents, because it's last minute. And since they already are aware that their last day is June 19th. It will happen.
So Christina, I know we're up against time. What I think would be helpful is having an analysis that takes a look at both the 19th and the 20th, but more importantly with the 19th, how does that look from the district if the district observes the holiday, but those two schools are in session, right, to meet the requirements? And I'm not sure if that requires language within our bylaws to give us that flexibility to do that. I think as long as the district is recognizing the holiday and we're making, what I'm hearing is we're going to make an exception for these two schools in order for kids to meet state requirements to move forward to the next grade or graduate, then fine, like let's do that. And if we need to fast track it, I'm available to sign or have any type of conversation.
I don't know what you mean by exception. I think if we made it the holiday, it would just be forcing those.
It would be just those two. It'd be so except so. Okay, so if we're recognizing it as a holiday, we're saying it's a holiday.
Mhm.
Therefore, there's no school.
Right, but yeah, the other schools are already off by then, so it doesn't impact them, but it would impact these two schools who have been
So
delayed.
we're making it. So therefore, we're making an exception for these two schools.
Meaning an exception is that they still attend the 19th, even though it's a district holiday?
Correct.
Okay,
That's like
Yeah.
that's like. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's like that's. I would consider that to be an exception.
got it.
I mean, Tyrone, AJ, what are your thoughts?
It's not unfair to put that on the table. If we're looking at alternatives, you're suggesting those two schools be allowed to go to school on the 19th versus take Monday off, come back on Tuesday. Okay, as a one-off, that is a reasonable compromise. You're saying let's recognize the holiday, but allow those two schools to operate on the holiday.
Yes, I don't want to punish the kids, right, for something that, or kids and parents, that for something that wasn't in their control, or more importantly, something that wasn't in our control that we couldn't plan for. So I think we should be flexible in looking at the alternatives. And I say, wherever we land, let's just make sure that there's language in our bylaws that allows for that type of flexibility. Because I assume that this will come about again.
Again.
Maybe not in our tenure, but at some point it will come about again.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree. Christina?
Yeah, no, so we'll work on that language, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for bringing it up. Appreciate you.
I was like, should I?
Appreciate you for bringing it up, and I think that's the at least a plan, right? You know, some no matter what you do, folks gonna have some kind of whatever. But I think the way Chairman Rigger laid it out, I think Tyrone and I both agree that we got to do something. So, all right. Is there anything else?
No, not for me.
All set. Well, listen, thank you all so much for coming on the call. Hope that you all have a phenomenal day. And I look forward